We're good on the record, brother.
Wait, we're recording?
We've been recording for 3 minutes. Actually, I've been recording you for a year and a half.
Yeah, I'm going to text Will because, I don't really have a lot prepared because he's sort of taking the lead here.
Today, we're going to talk about the greatest hits from the mid 80s, and we're going to start with Talk Talk. And coming up next is Naked Eyes with There's Always Something There to Remember. This one goes out to Will Cooper in Southern Utah, who's trying to remember something at this moment.
There he is. Before we're done, while we're on this subject, by raise of hands, how many people have called into a radio station requesting a song be dedicated to someone? And then we're super excited when it happened. I mean, here.
Does it mean that you actually got through, or is it just if you called the radio station and you let it ring for 6 hours?
No, I called through, dedicated a song. To be fair, I was in seventh grade and I used a pseudonym for the person who was sending the song, but it worked. It worked out well. Yeah.
Did you call Casey Kasem?
No, local station, and my pseudonym was Lee Maynard. I don't know where I got that name, but Lee Maynard was the sender of said song. I don't know who I was sending it to. It was a girl or something, but it did. I mean, long term, it didn't work out for me.
Toby Gillis. Yes, Sherry. Yeah. Starship. Marie, we're all in the right vibe today. That's all I gotta say.
For real. All right, Will, welcome.
You did. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It has been a very, very, very busy day at sea. We're fighting, from the legal department. We're responding to division complaint, earnest money dispute, a lawsuit that came in, and oh my goodness, you can't avoid it. It's just we talk about this all the time, but why is real estate litigious in nature? One, the sales prices are high. Two, it has a contract. And three, there's deposits, and those amounts are significant. And because of those three factors, it just is a magnet for disputes and legal issues, which is why you are all so important to your clients because you help lower legal risk. So, hey, everyone grab the coaching manual. Let's go to page 107. And Mike, you can pull it up. But for those who have the coaching manual, we talked about this in the sales meetings. We're going to be looking at questions that you need to answer, and I think this will take us on a really nice journey.
And the link to the coaching manual is in the chat. If you would please, Joe, give me some sharing capabilities. Oh, wait, no, you gave them to me and I had to end yours. Never mind. There we go.
This is certainly in a presentation, improve our presentation. So we're looking at this from questions that need to be answered so that we're prepared to answer questions. And the core concerns that are at the top. So let's go page 107. I think you're on, yeah, this over to the other side. We've got kind of these grouped into. Matter of fact, hey, can we take a quick poll? There's 27 of you. For those who can answer, if you're driving, don't answer. I'll take it as a no. But how many of you have the coaching manual or the document pulled up so you can see it visually? Could you just give me oh, Chris does. Nice. Kristen does. Sherry does. All right, good. Keep weighing in on the chat. Appreciate that. Just want to make sure I know how my audience is consuming the information.
Maybe that's a little better on our screen. Does that look better?
Yeah, that looks better to me too. Thanks, Mike. So you can see how we have core concerns or 4 questions. What's the true market value of my property? Number 2, what is my net? This is going to deal with expenses and loan payoffs. Number 3, how long will it take? Days on market, setting an expectation there. And number 4, will the property actually sell? This is important for those who've had a problem selling. So those are core concerns for every seller. We need to be able to answer those. So we'll break that down. The marketing things are how will my property be marketed, and how will we go about finding a buyer? That's very basic concern of exposure. How will we expose the property? Will there be an open house and when? I think a lot of sellers ask us that. What should be done to prepare for showings? This is getting into more of the details. When will pictures, video be captured? When will a sign be placed? Where will the sign be placed? How will the showings happen? So what's the process of notification? How much time will I have to prepare? And when will the property be officially listed on the MLS? And we've got noted there, clear cooperation issues could need to be discussed, and that's a moving target as we know today. What is the buyer agent compensation? This is all in the listing agreement. And then how can I wow, did I miss a page?
Nope, here we go.
Go back up to show me where it says buyer agent compensation on the screen. Oh, page 108. And move to the left a little bit there. Oh my gosh, I got to fix window because I can't see the number. Is the number wrong, you guys?
Number 13. What is the buyer agent compensation?
How do we go 13 to 25?
Well,
I'm like, wait, am I losing my mind here? Who wrote this thing? Looks like someone with maybe ADHD. I don't know. Maybe. Could be, right, Kristen? Maybe. Not really good at editing, but good at content. All right, fine. We got one number off, but all that's found in. So what we're trying to do here is to formulate your structure in your mind about your listing presentation around answering questions, but into groups. What can be answered as core? What can be answered in listing agreement? What can be answered in RepC? You guys follow me? Okay. And the skill set here, I've been preaching this forever, is to use the RepC as a visual aid with your listing presentations. This particular focus is around the questions they're going to ask. Okay. So let's drop down to what will the buyer expect to be included in the sale? Or you could phrase this like, what is included in the sale? And of course, we go to 1.2 of the RepC. How about what happens to my water shares? Where's that addressed? Am I obligated to pay the HOA assessments? Questions that they have, and where does that get answered? Anyone want to take a stab at where in the RepC we answer questions about the HOA? Anyone want to flex their memorization of the RepC? What section are we going to talk about HOA costs? Come on, impress me. Everyone's like, I'm busy, Will. I gotta, this is something else. I'm doing something else right now. I'll get right back to you on that one. Could it be in section 4, somewhere in section 4? Anyone going, it's section 4? There it is. Nicole, see? Impressive. 4-1.
500 bonus points, Nicole. 500.
Absolutely. Yep. Nice job. Now, so what we do there is we say, that's a really good question. Let's take a look at the section of the agreement that will addresses that. And let's talk about our seller's disclosures as well as it comes up with HOA. Mike, is there anything on here on this? So there's 25 questions. Is there any one of these we should really dig into? I do want to spend time on 1 through 4. Anything else?
You know, Question number 20, am I obligated to sell for the appraised value? I think we should spend a little time on that because that's sort of, walking them through potential issues in the sale. That's sort of one of the potential issues in the sale.
All right, what do you think, everybody? Jordan, Tyler, Marie, Pam, Kev, Steve, are our sellers obligated to sell the property for the appraised value?
No.
No, they're simply not obligated to. So what is an appraisal in real estate? Why do we have appraisals in real estate?
Sherry Kane says protects the lender.
Since the lender is using the property as collateral, the lender wants to know the value. They typically have down payment requirements, which is all a protection for them, right? Because the bigger the down payment, the lower the risk is for the lender because there's equity in the property and there's not going to be a foreclosure because the seller would just simply sell the property. The owner would sell the property. If they can't afford it, they sell it. And the reason they can sell it is because there's equity. So all the down payment is also a protection, meaning that we need to establish a value from an unbiased third party. Hey guys, write this down. An appraisal in real estate is not a prediction of what a buyer will pay, but rather a justification of what they've already agreed to pay. In real estate, that's mostly what an appraisal is. An appraisal is not a prediction of what a buyer will pay. It is a justification of what a buyer already agreed to pay. That's different. This is why, so this issue of appraisal, do I have to sell for appraisal? Appraisal is just an opinion. And frankly, I'd take a good real estate agent's opinion of value way more than I would an appraiser. The appraiser is forced to use some guidelines that don't always apply to every listing that we take, like 6 blocks or like, kind, style. There's a lot of flaws to the appraisal. Not saying that it's not a good barometer. I certainly don't read into that. It's a good barometer, but it's a justification of what a buyer would pay, not a prediction of what someone would pay. Okay. Any comments, questions on that one? Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, just a couple of comments in the chat. Kristen said, I always tell my clients the buyers have a right to ask, the sellers have a right to say no. And Steve said, but it shouldn't be an absolute. I think Steve's referring to the appraised value. Is that what you're referring to, Steve? It not being an absolute? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if I represent the buyer and an appraisal comes in low, I'm certainly going to let the seller know what it came in at and maybe even suggest that the buyer is willing to pay the appraised value and use that to my advantage in hopes to negotiate a lower sales price. But to Kristen's point, it's right. I mean, the seller doesn't have to sell it for that, and the buyer isn't making a promise to even pay the appraisal. What happens when the appraisal comes in above price? Do we then adjust the sales price above the contract price? Of course not. So again, the appraisal is a justification of what the buyer would pay, not necessarily a prediction or the absolute know-all of value. So I don't think we should be giving appraisers that much credit. Sorry, I'd rather take a really good real estate agent with the great comps than an appraisal. But any other comments, Kev? You got anything to add to that?
No, that's exactly right. It's an opinion of value based on the data they have at the time, but buyer and seller negotiate their own opinion of value, and it's affirmed by the market. You don't get any offers if it's the market may reject the seller's price.
Right, and that the wisdom of the market is more accurate than any other opinion of value. Remember how many times I've hoped that everyone would memorize that. I'll say it again. The wisdom of the market is more accurate than any other opinion of value. The reason why that saying is so important is because it takes the target off of you. You're not the one setting the value. The market is setting the value. So the wisdom of the market. Who's behind you there, Mike?
I don't know what you're referring to, Will.
Hi, Bill. Okay. So
Hey,
was
Will, I've also described an appraisal as a snapshot in time, like a photograph taken at time. That's the value on the day the appraiser did it. But, if the seller went out and got an appraisal thinking about selling their property, they did a refinance, and now they think that this particular appraisal is the gospel truth as far as the value. They need to understand that that was done for the purpose of a refi. And then that was a snapshot in time. Since then, other homes have sold in the neighborhood, and it's a moving target. The appraisal is not an absolute that's not going to stay the same ever.
Yep,
Changes daily.
yep. Really good point. One more thing on that. The more unique the property is, the harder it is to appraise. So, go look at the appraiser's adjustments of opinion. And the bigger the adjustments are, the more the opinion is. And the broader the opinion, the less accurate it is. So we've
I
said before.
love Rachel's comment there. You see
Yeah.
that in the chat?
Yeah, Rachel says appraisers work with the past with a pencil. We work with the future and its potential.
Isn't that great?
Rachel.
I'm gonna print that, put it on my wall.
I mean,
Thanks,
come
Rach.
on.
Gosh,
Almost make me blush a little bit there.
Rachel, that is a mic drop. I love it. Yeah, boom. Love it. Yep. So that's why I say I take a good real estate agent over an appraiser any day. So yeah, really good. Let's commit that one to memory too. Matter of fact, just so I don't lose that one, I am going to save that into my photos right now. Rachel. Okay. Before we leave any of this on these 25 questions, I think there's two more or just two more points I want to go over. But before we leave this page you're on, number 18 right there, this, what should I disclose? We're going to get this, what should I disclose? And actually should is the right word. Sometimes they say, what do I have to disclose? And we should change that to should, not to have to. Should suggest a legal strategy of protection. Have to almost invite something that we've determined that we don't need to say. I'm just reminded because there is an issue of a lawsuit that's on my mind right now, and it reminded me of what could be fraudulent in lack of disclosure, and it's the open to observation issue. If something is open to observation and anyone could see it, an inspector could see it, then it's really hard to make a case for fraud or misrepresentation. But when something is hidden under rugs, behind sheetrock, in the attic, and it's hard to access. So if it's not open to observation, it begs that it could be fraudulent if we don't disclose it. So we have to pull it out of the cellar. Is there anything that's not open to observation by a normal, reasonable, prudent buyer or inspector? And if so, what is that thing? Like, have you ever sheetrocked over something that you repaired or improved, remodeled, that may have been a problem or a defect? Have you ever carpeted over something? Have you ever tiled over something? Did you put a wall up and therefore hid something? And if you did, we have to disclose that. And because that's going to just beg a lawsuit. Remember, all the lawsuits come from lack of disclosure on issues. It's still prevalent, still going on today, and we have another one that we're dealing with now. So, well, actually, that's the new one we got has nothing to do with the misrepresentation. Actually, it has to do with the fact that a real estate agent. God, do I even say all this stuff, Kev? What do I say too much?
No, you're fine.
I'm fine if I keep it general. We won't say who the agents are. Actually, they're not even with us anymore. The agent's not even with us anymore. And but if you loan money to a transaction, you can't represent everyone as a limited agent. You become interested in the property when you loan money in any sort of a way, and there's the problem. So, okay. Let's go on to let's go back to the core, the 1, 2, 3, 4 there, Mike. I want to make sure we tie in something I talked about in-person huddle in Old Mill yesterday. I think it's really important to stitch all these things together. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do. I'm going to stitch some things together. What we see in 1, 2, 3, and 4 here is what's my value, So what will my price be? Like, so what am I going to sell for? What's my net? So all, highest possible net is our objective and our benefits to sellers. And then how long will it take? So short amount is a time frame. And then will my property sell is the chance of selling. So I want you to think in your mind always about those core benefits: highest price, highest net, least amount of legal risk or smooth transaction, least amount of time, and the improved chance of selling. That's what everyone wants from us. That's the benefit. So when you talk about what you do, you have to stitch together what you do versus the benefit of it. And does anyone remember what that sentence is? I've talked about this before in coaching. Does anyone remember how do we stitch something from what we do to why or what the benefit is or the result of that is? Can anyone tell me what that is?
We're talking about the feature, the benefit, the tie down.
Yeah, how do I go from feature to benefit? How do I tie feature? So I'm going to hold an open house. How do I go from open house, just generically, to highest price? What's the sentence I use to tie those two together? We syndicate all of our listings. How do I tie that to highest net? We use the absolute best, highest quality video and photography. How do I tie that to a benefit? Anyone? No? Chris, you look like, boy, you got that thinking pose going, it's not there.
Kimberly says, speak in terms of how it benefits them.
True. I'm looking for.
Sometimes you have to ask them, do you see how this will allow us to reach more buyers or reach more qualified buyers or show your house in the best possible light to achieve the highest value? You can't just do an information dump. We do this, we do this, we do this, we do this. You have to answer the question, so what does this mean to you and how does this benefit you?
Yeah,
And then once they understand it, their head's nodding up and down and you've tied it.
right. I love that. I like asking, taking a question and responding with a question. Or, yeah, can you see how this will help us achieve the highest price? And that gets them to say yes. It's like warm up, yes. A
Yeah, the
time
feature
out,
means nothing to them until they understand the value of it to them, just like
correct.
Kimberly said.
Yeah, if we say, oh, we hit every major website in the country, they don't necessarily know what that's going to mean to them. So here's the sentence, guys, I was looking for is simple. It's so we can. We syndicate all of our listings to all major websites so we can reduce the time on market or achieve the highest list price. We use the highest, photography and video so that we can reduce our days on market and touch the broadest buyer pool in a positive way. See, so we're tying what we do so we can. If you'll memorize that, so we can, or so I can. But I really like we because it's a team effort. We need our client on board with everything we do, so that we can. And it also indicates a larger team that's behind you. So practice that. Practice that dialogue. This is what we do so we can achieve the benefit. And these top seller questions are not happenstance. It's because these are their top concerns, and we address their top concerns with the benefit of what we do, right? How we do it, what we do ties into the reality of the result of that, and that is highest price, highest net, quickest sale, least amount of legal risk, and the improved chance of selling. Everybody good? Awesome. Mike, anything else to add to that, or Kev, or anyone else want to chime in before we leave this page?
No, well said as far as I'm concerned.
I'll just add one thing
Yeah.
is that we have so many tools and so many, platforms and things like that. If you're building a listing presentation, you may have all of those tools in there. Like I've got all this stuff. They don't care about all that stuff. You need to do like a pre-listing interview to find out what's important to them and then present the tools that solve their problem. And that's when you get the traction.
Nice. Yeah, you spawned a thought, Kev. From my vantage point, what I see for the entire company, it applies to every single person in this company. It's one word. What is it, Mike? We talked about it yesterday in Broker Huddle. What's the one word? Do you remember? Oh, he's
There
forgotten.
was, there was more than one word. There was several one word.
Mike, I'm sorry to do that to you. You remember the word?
Excellence,
No, come on.
um,
No,
dominant. No,
no. Unity.
unity. That was my third guess. It was on the tip of my.
Unity equals growth. And Kevin just brought this up. The better you are at unifying yourself to resources and tools, the more growth you'll have in your business. Now, if you don't do that, you're isolated, you're alone, you're going to start feeling like, oh my gosh, what does the company do for me? And anytime we start dividing ourselves from our teammates, like the company is a teammate, and you start to see it's us and them, you're dividing. Now, if you start to unify, you go, we, all of my resources, I connect to people and resources, I become united, I get growth. It's how it works. I'm telling you, my top mentors in my life have taught me this my whole life. Don't be a lone ranger. You're not going to succeed. You can go fast by yourself for short distances, but if you want to go far, you have to have a team around you. So that's unification. Unity, unity, unity. So I'm going to keep preaching it. It is the answer. One word, 2025. You want to thrive in 2025, be united to resources. That's how you're going to do it. And it's mortgage, it's title, it's development, it's commercial, it's all the services of your broker, your OA, and it's Moxie, it's Real Scout. It's all of those things are unifying to those resources will grow your business. Okay, I want to go. Can you pull up the rep sheet really quick?
I sure can.
Let's take a poll really quick. Let's see how well you're doing. This is a rep sheet flex. How many of you can tell me what section of the rep sheet is the notices section? And don't look. Notices section. Who's got it? What section of the rep sheet is the notices? Good guess. Good guess. Pam, I think Pam's got it. Okay, it's 18. Can you pull that up, Mike?
And coming up.
There's three things that are required for a notice. Let's just break it down. I want to make sure that we all understand what's required in a notice. All right, so Mike, you want to go ahead and read that?
Yeah, you bet. Section 18, notices. Except as provided in Section 23, all notices required under the REPC must be A, in writing, B, signed by the buyer or seller giving notice, and C, received by the buyer or seller or their respective agent or by the brokerage firm representing the buyer or seller no later than the applicable date referenced in the REPC.
Okay, so let's first of all, the first thing A has to be in writing. So would a text message or an email fit that first category? In writing?
Nope. Well, yes,
Well, it would. It's in
but
writing.
it's not from the buyer or seller. It's from the agent.
Yeah. So if I say something like I'm notifying you that you're the primary offer, or I'm notifying you of cancellation, and it's in writing, the first one in writing is an email, text, or anything else, a letter. Let's now test a text message against B. So agent sends a text message. Is it signed by buyer or seller? Yes or no? Obviously no. And then we have to have it received by. So think of our REPC dates. Everything is 5 p.m., correct? So it has to be received by who? Before 5 on any given day. And it lists it out. It could either be the buyer, the seller, their agent, or their brokerage. That's interesting. So if an email is sent and received before 5, but it didn't go to the buyer or seller, does that count as notice? So the buyer says, I never received it before 5, but the agent did. Is that notice? Everybody? That is notice.
Yep.
All right. Agent says, well, I never received it. Buyer says, I never received it, but the brokerage received it. Is that notice? Yep, that's notice. That one happens very rare, but technically that is notice. So where do you think we get in trouble with this? We get pretty text happy, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
We're always texting things and communicating, and we think that that might be noticed.
Or even a phone call. I called you and I told you.
Yep.
Well, you never sent it in writing. Doesn't count.
So let's go to 14, section 14. I like to remind everybody how powerful the REPC is. This is how powerful and arrogant the REPC is. So I'll read this one some attitude. The REPC, together with its addenda, any attached exhibits, and seller's disclosures collectively referred to as the REPC, constitutes the entire agreement contract between the parties and supersedes and replaces any and all prior negotiations, representations, warranties, understandings, or contracts between the parties, whether verbal or otherwise. The REPC cannot be changed without written agreement of the parties. Very, very arrogant stance and very, very solid, like king of the hill type contract language. It supersedes and replaces any and all prior negotiations of any kind, whether it's in writing or verbal or otherwise. So, in other words, the REPC just dominates. So Mark and I were having this discussion this morning. So let me pass on a couple of things I think we should just warn ourselves of. That's why I wanted to get into this. Sometimes we as agents, even when I just read how absolutely powerful the REPC is, we inadvertently give a legal opinion about where a buyer or a seller may stand related to how we understand the REPC. The problem with that is the law is really complicated. And it really depends. How many times did we joke in that mandatory class when we said, what's the rule? And someone says, well, it depends. And we joked and said, you sound like an attorney because it depends. Like it really does. There are going to be some times where the REPC can be argued, and contracts can only be enforceable as long as they are lawful. Right? So if a law is at battle with language in a contract, the law will win. Even though the REPC just stood on top of the hill and said, see how powerful I am? Isn't that interesting? So what I'm warning us all of is to please be careful about making statements like, well, oh, you would definitely get the earnest money. Oh, you would definitely win if this went to court. Yeah, that's not our place to say. There's also, I think, a reminder to all of us to avoid conflict just entirely. Like there's no, like we want our client to be in an enforceable position. Yes, of course we do. That's our job to do. Make sure that we are 100% out of breach from our perspective so that we can enforce it on the other party when need to. However, if we make statements like you would win, we've gone too far. We can read what the contract says, like earnest money to be released to buyer or seller without further written authorization. We can read that. But given a large amount of earnest money and some lack of clarity in some language somewhere in the contract or language that may not be lawful, we could see a debate and there could be an argument. So we've got to be careful that we don't play judge and jury on the REPC terms when we're looking at things like that. So just a warning there. Something came up this morning that tested that theory, so I wanted to pass that along. All right. Gosh, where to go from here? I've got some notes on my phone while I'm looking at Mike. Do you want to anything you want to add?
No, I think I'll go back to notices. I think of all the conflict on notices that I've had, it's almost always on a text message, whether or not that constitutes a notice. And we fight about those things. So just be aware that if you get a text message or you're sending a text message to deliver notice, probably going to be a problem. A fight of some sort.
Yep. Agreed. All right. Well, let's see what should we do from here. Oh, okay. Let me talk about urgency for a minute. First of all, how many islands are there? Who's been paying any attention to anything I say for the couple of years now? How many islands are there?
Pam says 12.
12 islands. There's 13 colonies and 12 islands. No, there, no, how many islands are there?
Chris Visser's throwing up a gain sign that looks mysteriously like a 3. 3. Chris has got 3. Kimberly says 4.
Okay. Anyone want to break the tie? How many islands are there? Oh, please tell me you guys know. All right, I'll keep preaching. Chris, how many islands are there? You think there's 3? Okay. Nicole, do you know? 4?
4?
A4.
Okay. All right. Well, let's keep on. There are 4 islands. And the 4 islands are related to each other. They're in a group, but there are 4. The first island is the idea island. Lots of ideas, lots of people on island number 1. An idea is really powerful. The second island is the island of belief or know-how. This is where we study, we research, we try to be better. Right now, today, doing this, we are on the island of belief or know-how. The third island is the island of work, where it's all application that's applied. And the last island is the island of results or reward and the things we want. So they're very related, right? They're all related to each other and very much needed for each other. It's hard to do anything without an idea. It's hard to be effective at application without proper knowledge and study. And it's certainly critical to work what we know. And it's all driven by the results. Well, there's 2 islands that are connected. Can you tell me which islands are actually connected? So that they're connected together. The 2 islands are separate, like oceans all around them. But 2 islands are connected. Which ones are they? You're right. Work and results are connected. You can't do anything good or work or effort without instantly getting an effect of that. Like eating well for one day will have an effect, but it certainly wouldn't reach some big, health goal, but you'd still be healthier. Making one phone call would still have the result. Just one. Holding one open house, just one, would still have an effect. So the island of work and results are very close, are connected actually. And the other islands, you got to swim. You got to get there. You got to get from the island of idea. Well, there's a lot of ideas. We're really not running low on ideas, are we? Don't you have a lot of ideas on what you could do in your business? Yes?
A lot.
Okay, and now let's go to island number 2. How many of you have spent an awful lot of time learning something? Have we ever found ourselves just not applying what we know? So look, I just saw this. I got to know the hockey coach, but I just forgot his name. Does anyone know the Utah hockey coach? I shook his hand. I was introduced to him, and now I just forgot his name. Jeez.
You mean the Utah
Club, Utah Hockey Club. Anyone know the head coach? I guess we could Google it. Who's the head coach of the Utah Hockey Club? All right, someone chase that down.
Utah Hockey Club head coach. Andre Torgny?
Andre. That's why it's a harder name. So here's his quote. There are no guarantees tomorrow if there's no urgency today. He's talking about getting on the island of work. And one of the biggest challenges we all have is doing what we know we should. I don't want you to be overwhelmed. If you're overwhelmed, you start feeling bad about yourself because you can't do everything. But what I would like you to do is to prioritize what you do and make sure that you're applying what you know. And you can't do everything, but everyone can do something. So when you feel overwhelmed, you've tried to do everything and you can't. When you start being, urgent but also strategic, then you're going to prioritize what you do. And I mean, yeah, there is today and there is tomorrow. There's not much guarantees past that in life, as we know, unfortunately. We never know when our days are up. Everyone's days are numbered. You get a lot of fulfillment, though, when you apply what you know. So there's a lot of smiles on the island of work because we're doing it. Like, look at me, mom, I'm doing it. Like, look at me, dad. Look, no hands. I'm doing it. And you get a lot of fulfillment that comes there. It's really hard to be happy without working. Like, so the solution to despair is work. Okay, how about this? Could we switch up the order of the islands? Which islands could be switched order? So we had one, two, three, four. Which ones could we switch the order in?
2 and 3, possibly.
2 and 3. Excellent, Kev. See,
Yeah.
since when do we say that we have to know everything about something before we can do it? That's not a thing, actually. So we sometimes trick ourselves in taking idea and then know-how, and we don't go to island of work because we're still stuck on know-how, and we just actually just don't apply it. A lot like you got to get on the field sometimes to have the learning happen.
Sometimes some people learn best by doing.
Yep.
They do the work and then they own the lesson. They could be, reading it from books and listening to lectures and everything, and they don't own it until they actually go out there and see how it works in reality, and then they totally understand it and they own that principle.
Okay, so if we say, if we say I'm not good at open house, or I don't do open houses, because I just don't believe they work, we just put the island of belief in head of the island of work, and we're not going to get there on that thing. Do you see what I mean? When you say it's a negative affirmation, actually, when you say things like that. So be careful what you say to yourself. When you say you're not techie, or you're not good at social media, or I'm not good at video, or, all these things that we may negatively say, we don't realize that what we've done is we've said this island of belief is in the way of island of work. And to Kevin's point is, if you'll just go do it, you'll believe in it. That's the thing. So you said go do it and then believe in it later. So belief is not required for action. That's what I'm trying to say. Belief is not required for action. And remember, so if Thrive in 2025 is about unity, unity cannot happen unless we're on the island of work. You're working to connect with resources. Every resource at Brookshire.
Hey,
Gosh.
Will,
Yeah. Yeah.
I bet you everybody on this call knows somebody knows somebody who at one time in their life was a professional student that had been in college for 10, 12 years. They'd never gone and gotten a job, but they keep accumulating degrees, keep accumulating knowledge, and they never really launch because they've never gone out there and actually applied anything they were learning.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of agents start that way too. They'll come to all the classes, they'll do all the training, but you ask them about what's in your daytime or what did you do? How did you apply any of this? And their daytimer's empty. They refuse to apply any of it, and so they will never really own the principle or know exactly what success is all about because they're afraid to do the work.
Yeah. 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 Hey, I think that's so well said. And we all know that. I think we've all been that, actually. I think I've used the excuse of being more prepared before I jump into action. I've been that many times. Thankful for mentors who recognize that and see the best in me that I didn't see in myself, and encourage me to do things I've never done and get uncomfortable, even though I didn't feel completely confident. And I was stuck on that island of know-how, trying to study my way until I felt confident enough. There's certainly an element of that. I mean, I know Scott's making a joke a little bit about a pilot. We're not going to not going to have anyone, fly an airplane unless they're really well trained. So there is certainly an element of, let's not jump into real estate and do something but look, we've had a lot of that's not really the problem that is prevalent in our business. It's just getting more disciplined with our time, and prioritizing our time. And I don't want anyone to. The purpose of these huddles is not anyone to feel bad about what they're not doing. It's the opposite, is to feel good about what you could be doing. That's what the purpose of this is to be lifted and to remind you that you're not alone. You've got all this help around you, and we're all fighting life together. You can't do everything, and you can't be everything to everybody, but everyone can do something. So what's the priority of today and this week? I really think there's freedom in planning. I think there's freedom in planning because you can plan golf. You can plan rest. You can plan to be a good friend. You can plan to be a good parent. You can plan when I'm going to prospect. And if you don't plan, you're going to be flying around. And I am guilty as anybody about that. I'm preaching to myself, really, right here. I'm breaking my own rule right now. I joked in sales meeting on Tuesday in Old Mill that I said, Tammy, we have no rest on the calendar. And when there's no rest on the calendar, I feel like the distance is too far and it weighs me down. I need to put rest on the calendar. As soon as you calendar rest, magic happens, right? How many times have we heard this? That we get busier when we go to schedule a vacation. It should actually be a prospecting strategy. I just don't have enough vacations on my schedule. Because as soon as you do that, what are you doing? You're getting focused. You're getting hyper-focused. You get ultra-planned because come next Thursday, you're gone. Or 2 weeks from now, I'm gone. I'll be out, So you break up everything. Now it's short-term goals and not just big, massive marathon that goes on and on forever. It's actually an ultra-marathon that we're all running. And we got to break that thing up into some 5Ks. That's what we got to do. All right. You guys tired of hearing all that from me? Go, Will, go. Just keep preaching it. 4 islands. 4 islands. Okay. I want to just tell you something. I shared this yesterday in our in-person, but maybe this could be our outro, if that's okay, guys. Can you spare me? Can I tell you a story? Can I tell you a story really quick? I hope this is inspiring to you. Okay. I just discovered this. I've watched 3 episodes of Naked and Afraid. And I guess the reason why I've never watched Naked and Afraid is probably because it says naked. And I'm like, that's probably not for me. I'm probably not going to watch this as naked. But has anyone ever watched this? I'm just curious. It's really a survival Disney, Discovery Channel survival. Has anyone? No? Well, there's a method to my madness here if you have anybody? No one?
Yeah. We're aware of this. We're aware of this.
You're aware? Have you ever watched it?
Yeah.
Okay, so the gist of the whole thing is that humans have a really hard time without tools, and it tests our ability to persevere. It's 21 days till extraction. 2 people are dropped off. They become naked and they get given like a what are your resources? So machete, a net. Something like this. And it is, so in the beginning, the first 3 or 4 days, everyone's pretty chipper. Certainly there's that moment where I think everyone meets each other. It's embarrassing, like, hey, here we are, full glory. But come about 7 days in, they've had nothing to eat and water has to be boiled and their calorie deficit is astronomical. They're burning about 3,000 to 3,500 calories a day. And they're eating nothing. And it's this perseverance of a really, really hard challenge. Well, here's what I want. This is the magic that I saw. I just don't know. And I'm still trying to figure this out for myself. But all right. So in this particular episode, the woman has to be medically extricated from the show because she inadvertently drank water that had not been boiled and she had an intestinal infection, leaving the man, about a 40-year-old male, to see if he can do this whole thing by himself. At night, he has to stoke a fire because there's cobras that are in the Philippine jungle. The water looks like the Jordanelle River in Salt Lake, but it's a canal. He wants to actually, kill this cobra to eat it because it's protein. But, of course, the cobra is venomous. I'll just cut to the chase. He never does he make numerous attempts, traps, spear, never does catch the cobra. All this is metaphoric, guys. This is all metaphoric. All right. We're in the jungle. It's hard. It's tough. It's really tough. So you can imagine his demeanor like 3 days left. He's exhausted. He's lost about 25 pounds at this point. I think his total calorie intake were like he had 2 snails. They only found 4 snails. He shared it with his partner, the other 2. That's the only protein they really had. He ate a scorpion. He cut the stinger off, and it was like he described it to be like a little tiny piece of bacon. This is the only thing you ever see them eat for 21 days. So he gets started on the extraction point a little early. It's like 4 miles to get to the extraction point. Imagine if we did blood work right now on him. What would we show? Low blood sugar, right? And we show like low blood sugar. We have dehydration. He's drinking water out of bamboo made containers that he boiled. This creek water isn't even creek. It's canal water, guys. I don't even know. Has anyone ever boiled canal water and then drank it? And tell me what that tastes like.
Haven't had the pleasure.
Water.
Yeah. Anyway, he says, "Oh, it's not so bad." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I cannot imagine." And he's been drinking this now for 3 weeks. All right. So this is the gem. His demeanor trying to get that 4 miles is brutal. Bent over, exhausted, face is sunken, sad, depressed. This is too hard. No shoes. That's the worst thing about this whole experience is there's no shoes. And so his legs are beat up. Every step is tender. 200 yards away at the extraction point on the map, he's looking. Am I there? Am I there? He sees the Jeep. He sees the Jeep. It's 200 yards away. All of a sudden, his face goes, I did it. I did it. And I actually paused it for a second. I said, Tammy, get in here. I said, what is this? I said, just stick for a second. Did any one of those cells get water? No. Did he eat anything? No. Like his biological makeup, it was still the same as it was 5 days ago, 7 days ago, 10 days ago. But now that he sees the Jeep, everything's fine. Matter of fact, now he just pops right up and everything's fine. So here's the saying for me this week is see the Jeep. See the Jeep. It's metaphoric, guys, but see the Jeep. The power of your mind to make positive what is negative is real. Nothing changed in his biological makeup when he saw that Jeep. But all of a sudden, there was a length in his stride. There was a smile on his face. Now, maybe you could say, well, that's because he knew he could do it, Will. Oh, so the fear of failure changed his entire makeup. Got it. And then the realization of success changed his makeup. So what we're really talking about is thought, right? We're talking about mindset. Hey, you guys, I have had people tell me, I get tired of Will and his mindset stuff. Seriously. Seriously. I'm dead serious. This is not period. Like that's exact. And ironically, it's the same people who need the mindset stuff. The mind is so powerful. You can do all this. You can see the Jeep. No matter how hard it is, tall the mountain, how far it is, lack of water, lack of food, lack of companionship, see the Jeep. And then I realized, so I dug in a little further, I started researching what can be learned from the survival of naked and afraid. And you can Google this. It breaks it down. AI breaks it down into talking points. And the realization that the human being needs tools, that needs teamwork, it needs attitude to persevere. The people who fail at this. So it's all metaphoric to me. And I see the patterns. I try to be a student of life. I really try to be a student of life, and when you do that, you see patterns. And so I hope it means something to you that you see the Jeep. When you see the Jeep, everything changes. All of a sudden, everything becomes positive. And now you can do it. And you perk up. So I hope you see the Jeep, because there's a lot of Jeeps around you. Right? Mindset really does matter. It changes everything. So So I guess that's my counter argument to those who say I get tired of Will's mindset stuff. Oh, Rachel said we have a gal in Moab that was on one episode. Wow, she's Moab famous. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, yeah, you can conceive it, Kev. You can achieve it, and
Well, you got to conceive it and believe it. You
yeah,
can't just come up with a fanciful thing and that has no reality. But if you believe that it can happen, your
yeah,
mind will find a way to make it happen. And
yeah.
that's true in real estate a lot.
One of my favorite questions to ask people: which of the four islands matters most? And almost everybody, like if you took a poll, the work island gets the most votes, but it's actually a trick question. They all matter. To Kevin's point, if you can conceive it, that's an idea. And when you're seeing the Jeep, you're on the first island. It's an idea. It's a concept. It's what you see, right? All the islands matter. Well, okay. Hey, one more point. Sorry, this is on my notes. I wanted to make sure. Yesterday, Kevin, you did an amazing job on the Park City meeting of showing data and statistics and then talking about why it matters. So for all of you, and I'm looking at the Vissers right now because they're very, very good at this. A lot of you are good at this. But when you're posting stuff on social media and you go to grab that newsletter, will you please tell me what you think is important about it and give me context to your content? I'd like your opinion of why it matters. So something like this. Hey guys, notice that appreciation in Davis County, Weber County, wherever, okay, is still there. All right, so if you're a seller, you may have more equity than you think. That is what we need. Don't just post knowledge. Knowledge is nice, but wisdom is why it matters. And Kevin, you did a great job when you went through all the statistics. You kind of gave a conclusion, and that's wisdom. And people want to know your wisdom, not just the data. They want to know why it matters, and they rely on you. You know, it's very hard in social media today to know and trust your content. Have you guys found that out? Like if I don't know you personally, it's a dumpster fire out there. I don't even know who's what right now. Like you got the Trump secretary, press secretary, and AI is just like, I don't even know if it's even her. I don't even know what she's saying anymore. I can't trust anything, but guess what I can trust? If I go on and I see Kevin Larson's post or Kristen Visser's post, or I see Sherry or Tyler, and I go on and on, if I say I trust that source, and there's very few people, but your inner circle will trust you. And frankly, they want to know what you think. So there's my tip for prospecting on social media and with the newsletters and the data that just came out. Make sure you're saying something about it that matters to a buyer or a seller. They want to know what you think. Okay. One more point on that. Since a lot of you we spend time on social media. Have you seen the post that has like two videos? So you have like, and they're pointing to it. And they're going, oh, this, like this. There's that proves my point. The reason why you're drawn to that is you're like, why is this person highlighting this video? They could have just posted the video, right? But they didn't do that. They also posted themselves watching it. It's the same phenomenon. So I'd like to know what you think about the data and put some wisdom to it. Can you do that? Good. Since Chris raises like, I got it. Okay, I'm expecting this post. And I want a sample to show in sales meeting. And I already showed one of yours where we took, one of the Visser's great posts was, and feel free to copy it, right, guys? Because, you copied it from someone, they could copy it from you. But this is a great video of a new construction house. They're kind of like in kind of like those final phases of construction where you see like sheetrock and I think it starts off with something like, many people might just see a new home here under construction, but we see a place where the barbecue is on Father's Day, right? We see the family gathered at the kitchen table. We see the kids enjoying playing in the family room, right? And what in other words, they're I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was fantastic. This is why we buy a home. This is the reason behind the feature. I thought it was fantastic. So there's another challenge for you. Take the newsletter that Jamie put out and put the wisdom to it. Tell people what you think is interesting and highlight that. Okay. All right. There you go. Mike, Kev, anything else to say goodbye? I know we're out of time. Thanks for joining us today. Anything else you want to add? Anyone have a dad joke to share?
You're the king of dad jokes. That's the only reason I came.
Why can't the leopard play hide and seek?
Easily spotted.
There you go. They're easily spotted. You got it. Yes. All right. Love you.